gentlemen, welcome back to The Rundown presents the greatest NFL team ever tournament. 64 teams we started off with, all 50-plus Super Bowl winners of all time, plus a couple of at-large teams that were really good, but did not win the Super Bowl in their season. My name is Desmond Johnson. I'm your host. I am joined by my esteemed guest panel today for the Regional Semifinal Part 2. Two members of the Four-Man Rush podcast. They are fantastic in terms of giving you insight, knowledge into everything Carolina Panthers. Kevin Avery and Will Harris on the line with me. What's going on, gentlemen?
What's up, man? Thanks for having us.
So
glad to be back.
Yeah, now Kev's been on a couple times now. This is Will's first time in the tournament. So just to kind of let Will know and everybody else is joining in with us here, how this works real quick before we begin. We got 4 matchups today. There's 4 regional semifinal games that we're going to pick to get us down to our Elite 8 in this 64-team tournament. The way this works, we seeded teams 1 through 16, 4 different regions. We had the Cowboys Regional, the Steelers Regional, the 49ers Regional, and the Bears Regional. They were named after the 1 seeds in each individual regional. There's only 2 1 seeds left, actually, and we're going to see both of them today. That's the 92 Dallas Cowboys and the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. We seeded so that we could create home field advantage in whatever particular matchup. Whichever seed is the higher seed, that game is played underneath the rules of the era of that higher seed. So if that higher seed is from the 70s, taking on a lower seeded team from the 80s or 90s, the game is taking place in 1974 or whatever. So that may affect the picks from Will and from Kevin in terms of, defensively, they can do pretty much whatever they want at that point of the NFL history or whatnot. So that might affect how you pick these games. Kev will pick a team and explain why. Will pick a team and explain why for each individual matchup. If both of them pick the same team, my vote doesn't matter, and that team moves on to the next round. If they both pick 2 individual teams, then I become the tiebreaker vote, and that team will move on to the next round after my vote and after we've debated who would advance between those 2 teams. Gentlemen, are you ready to get it going here in the regional semifinal part 2 of the greatest NFL team ever tournament?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so let's go to the Cowboys Regional here, our first game, and it's a doozy. It's the 2 seed, a team I've been keeping my eye on ever since this tournament started, the 1999 St. Louis Rams taking on the 1975 Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a 2 seed versus a 3 seed matchup here. Kev, I'm going to let you go first. Keep in mind, with the Rams being the higher rated seed, this game is not being played in 1975, it's being played in 1999. So some of those defensive rules that came into play after this steel curtain defense came and went are now in effect, and that might kind of affect how the Steeler defense will be able to try to slow down the greatest show on turf. Kev, I'm going to let you go first here on this one. Who would you select between the 1999 St. Louis Rams, 13-3 in the regular season, taking on the 1975 Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, like you said, it's definitely a doozy of a matchup. When you look at the 1975 Steelers, they went 12-2. They were 5th in points scored per game at 26.6. Their defense, of course, elite, only giving up. They were 2nd in fewest points allowed, 11.6 points a game. Just a straight, if you want to be a dominant team, that's what you like to be, top 5 in both points scored and fewest points allowed. And definitely the Steelers of 1975 definitely got this on display. That by this time, we had talked before, they had Swan and Stallworth on the bench, I think, with the 74 team, if I'm not mistaken. It's like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Wait, what? Wait a minute. Hold on. What? You got them playing the Ricky Pro. You got them playing like Ricky Pro or something, you know what I'm saying? Just come in on 3rd down or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. What was you thinking, Chuck? No. But
2 Hall of Famers sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Right. That whole part. But for me, my advantage here, I'm since it's day rules, I still got to go with these 75 Steelers. I just see that, when I think about the 99 Rams, I just think of the fact that greatest show on turf, but that last word is the key, turf. When you look back at their 99 season, even though they were, clearly dominant, but, the places where they lost at was, on dirt, basically, rugged fields. They lost 3 games that year. They were 13-3, but their 3 losses was at Tennessee. Now they did win. They did lose at Detroit, which had turf, but that was a shootout, 31-27. And then they lost at Philadelphia Eagles in a shootout, 31-38. So it's a shootout if they can keep up with it. But at the end of the day, I just look at the fact that turf defense can practically just have their way with you, and I just think that physical style of play, even with the talent, even when I think the Rams skills players are more talented against their defenders they would be going against during this matchup, but I would get an edge to the Steelers though.
So you're going with the 75 Steelers. Okay, so one vote for the 75 Pittsburgh Steelers. Will, his first pick in this tournament, who would you select between the 2 seed 1999 St. Louis Rams taking on the number 3 seed 1975 Pittsburgh Steelers?
Okay, so the way I understand it, with the 2 seed, the Rams are the home team.
Right. Yeah, the Rams. Yeah, I think Kev had it. I think Kev had it flipped around, but the Rams are the higher seeds. So yeah. Does that change your vote at all, Kev?
Wait a minute. Hold up. You know what? I'm looking. Oh, hold on. Because I'm looking at.
I heard you say it, and I was like, wait a minute.
Hold on. Let me go back and check. Because you know what? I got both Steelers teams up, and I'm actually looking at the 1 seed 78.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because the 74 Steelers were actually 10-3-1. I mean,
yes. Or no, they're 12-2. They were 12-2, but the 75 Steelers were 12-2, but they just happened to be the lower seed in this matchup against these Rams. So it would be played in 1999, not 1975.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad. I got all the different teams up that we're gonna go over. But yeah, okay. So yeah. Well, yeah, let me flip that then. Yeah, let me go with them Rams then, man.
Right.
Yeah, let me go with them Rams. Yeah. So I'm switching. Right. 99 Rams, Kevin Avery.
So we got one vote for the 1999 St. Louis Rams. Will, what say you between the 99 Rams and the 75 Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, that home field advantage really makes a difference for me. When you see how the Rams played ball, they could spread you out. You had Marshall Faulk, a dual threat running back that could do so many things. When you think of linebackers back then, they weren't asked to cover as much as they are nowadays. They were more in the box type run stuffers, like Jack Lambert and those guys. So I just think it'll just be so difficult for them to match up with all those weapons the Rams had, from Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, especially Marshall Faulk, especially on that dome turf environment. Yeah, I just think it's a very difficult matchup, even for a team as great as the Steelers. So, yeah, give me a vote for the Rams as well.
So, what's crazy is that I was clowning Sports Hub Triads, Aaron Gabriel, and WXII's Brandon Blakeney because a couple of shows prior, they are the two responsible for the exit of the overall 1 seed of this tournament, the 1985 Chicago Bears. They voted them out against the 98 Minnesota Vikings, who have actually moved on to the Elite Eight. 15-1, didn't win the Super Bowl, but they didn't win the Super Bowl because their field goal kicker missed the one kick he had missed the entire year, and Atlanta moved on to that Super Bowl. But their reasoning behind it, and I'm kind of coming around to it, was that Minnesota's speed would have affected that Bears team. In terms of the one team that affected that Bears team in 85 was the 85 Dolphins that actually beat them. And they beat them with Dan Marino just basically slicing them up, getting the ball out less than 3 seconds before, those dogs could get back to him in the backfield. And I think the logic was kind of the same with the Vikings. I think you can apply that to these Rams too, because really that Vikings team was this Rams team the year before, the Rams. Like the Rams just took what the Vikings did the year before and just they basically had a better running back, Robert Smith, compared to Marshall Faulk. That takes your offense to a whole different level than what it was. And then the wide receivers are kind of a wash. I mean, yeah, Vikings have Randy Moss, but as a group, I don't know. Would you take Chris Carter and Randy Moss, or would you take Torrey Holt and oh my gosh, the 3 they had: Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Akeem, like that collective 3. I might roll with them instead of Moss, Carter, and Jake Reed in Minnesota. It's tough though. That's really hard. Now that I said that out loud.
Yeah.
But my point being, the Rams were extremely fast. One of the fastest and funnest offenses I've ever seen. I still love the 99 Rams to this day. And I would have picked the Rams as well. So the Rams move on to the Elite Eight. Not too much of a shock there. The 1 seed in the Cowboys Regional is the 1992 Dallas Cowboys. They were 13-3 on the season. Lost their first 2 games of the year because Emmitt Smith was holding out. Jerry Jones gave them the money. Came back in. They went 12-1 the rest of the way, or whatever it was, 13-1 the rest of the way. Actually taking on a ghost of Cowboys past, the 1977 Dallas Cowboys team, which actually might be one of the better Cowboys teams ever. 12-2 on the season, Super Bowl winners. One of the last really powerful Tom Landry Cowboy-led teams. Will, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Who would you select between the 1 seed 1992 Dallas Cowboys or potentially an even stronger Cowboy team in franchise history, the 77 Dallas Cowboys, with the right to go to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, this will be a dream matchup for you trench lovers. We got the 92 Cowboys offensive line with Nate Newton, Mark Stepnoski, the center. I mean, they're one of the best offensive lines ever assembled there. Leading that, we had Moose Johnston at fullback, that power running attack with Emmitt Smith. Then you have the 77 Cowboys with that defensive line. You had Too Tall Jones and company. So I think that's where it starts right there. And I think when I look at the 92 Cowboys, just look at the weapons they had on offense, the big receivers on the outside, Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper. I think that would be a difficult matchup there. And you had Jay Novacek, an underrated tight end, being able to come across the middle and do damage there. And then just Troy Aikman, just very careful with the ball, not going to make a lot of turnovers. He can come back and win games when he needs them. And then on defense, I think they were underrated as well. They had their own good defensive line in their own right with Russell Maryland, defensive tackle. They had Ken Norton, the boxer's son at linebacker, Ken Norton Jr. The cornerbacks, even before, this was before Deion Sanders came on board, they had Kevin Smith and Larry Brown, who was a Super Bowl MVP a couple years later. So I just think that 92 Cowboys team to me is just an all-star cast of players. I mean, the 77 team had their own weapons as well. Drew Pearson was still there at wide receiver. He could present some problems, but I just got the offensive weapons that the 92 Cowboys were able to have, the powerful offensive line. They would just be able to out-bully you and out-physical teams. So I'll take 92 Cowboys in a close one in that matchup.
Man, that 92 or just early 90s Cowboys offensive line, I think that's the template like right now for like anybody wanting to build an offensive line. Like you go look at what Jimmy Johnson did in the early 90s with that Cowboys squad. Still the standard today. And if anybody could find another person that's built like Larry Allen or Eric Williams, please bring them to Charlotte.
Right.
we could use the help. Like if we can find another human being walking the earth that's built like those two boys. Kev, who you got between the 1992 Dallas Cowboys or the 1977 Dallas Cowboys for the right to move on to the Elite Eight?
Well, again, this is really like splitting hairs when you think about it. It's kind of odd. I think it's the first time I've ever had to choose between same franchise, different eras. So this is kind of unique for me. Like, okay.
This is what we do here on the Rundown, Kev. We give you that uniqueness.
It's like the teams I saw watching versus the team my dad saw watching when he was growing. You know what I'm saying? It's like two eras of football. But I mean, I can make a legit argument for either one. So me being the nerd stat geek, I just had to look at when it's so evenly matched up. Like Will said so brilliantly. In the trenches. Oh God, I wouldn't even watch what would have happened on the outside. I'd have been just like, okay, who getting pancake block or who just had their manhood taken? Like I'd have just been all in.
Was Ed Too Tall Jones on this defense still in 77?
I think he was. Let me
because they had some boys on that defensive front. I'm trying to remember who was on the 77 team that would have to go up against that line.
Yeah. actually, let me see. Hold on. I'm just kind of scrolling through their roster real quick from 77. But
because I was trying in 77. Tony Dorsett was the running back, right?
Right.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, they had him, Too Tall Jones, Randy White.
Right.
Yeah.
Man,
So
that O-line, D-line, man. That O-line, D-line matchup, man.
Man, bruh, like
that game would be like 13-7 or something like that.
Hey, man, both sides are gonna be icing it up for a couple of days after this one. You know, it's
gosh,
it's happening.
And I saw it as a future matchup. Like, oh man, down the road that might happen. I didn't expect it to actually go down, and I didn't really put a whole lot of thought into it, but. It ain't as simple as it seems on the surface. I don't think when you look at the rosters like you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's really not. So for me, it just comes down to quarterback play, and you got two Cowboy legends. I mean, Roger Staubach versus Troy Aikman. I mean, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to get an edge to the 92 Cowboys on this one because with Troy Aikman, his completion percentage was better. I think he would have just moved enough chains to get them that one last game winning drive to pull this out. He was completing 64% of his passes versus Roger Staubach, who was only doing about 58. And I know in the big scheme of things, 6% may not seem a lot, but in NFL, that's the difference between a couple of third down completions.
Yep.
And then I just look at the touchdown interception ratio as well. Troy Aikman, 23 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. These days now that would be considered very pedestrian, in today's, standards. But, back then that was considered, to be very good. And when you look at Staubach's numbers here, let me see. Yeah.
I mean, this was a 12-2 Cowboys team. They basically obliterated everybody they saw in 77. And this is during a decade, keep in mind, where if it wasn't the Cowboys, it was the Steelers or the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl. That was it. Like, there wasn't nobody else winning in that decade. So,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty much a three-team show during that whole decade. So, yeah, you're right. And then me being a huge Tony, I mean, I don't say this publicly too loud because Cowboy fans will say something, but I love Tony Dorsett. Like watching him run, but that was just a thing of beauty, And
he's kind of like Herschel Walker before Herschel Walker, I guess you could say, right? Kind of the same type of running back, kind of a big stand-up Eric Dickerson kind of stance type running back. Wasn't afraid to hit you. Herschel just had another gear, I guess. Like he was just a little bit faster maybe than Tony, but two similar running backs, I would say, in terms of style.
Yeah. So for me, give me the edge just off of quarterback play. I take Troy Aikman over Roger Staubach, and to put together a good last second game winning drive. So yeah, give me the 92 Cowboys on this one.
See, I like both of you. This is why I'm glad I picked both y'all to come in here and do this because y'all making my job easier because I ain't got to pick. So far, I've had to pick a team. The 92 Cowboys advance. That sets up a crazy regional final down here. That's man. So it'll be the 1 seed 1992 Dallas Cowboys taking on the 2 seed 1999 St. Louis Rams in the Cowboys regional final. That's gonna be fun. So. We're gonna put that off. We're gonna put a pin in that one, and we're gonna leave that one where it is, and just let that marinate for a second because that one's got all kinds of possibilities going on in it. So, Emmett versus Marshall, Kurt Warner versus Troy Aikman. Oh man, let's just okay. So
that's like the Super Bowl.
So Cowboys
that's like
regional
the Super Bowl
final
for fantasy owners.
Like Kev probably like Orlando Pacers.
Right. I'd have been just fine if that was the final of this whole thing. 92 Cowboys, 99 Rams. I wouldn't have had a problem with it. I'm like, I can't really. I mean, that's okay. That works for what we're doing. We're gonna move over to the Steelers regional. And speaking of multiple teams from a franchise in there, these Steelers almost had like 3. I think of these Steelers teams end up in the regional semis. But we're gonna start off with the 2 seed. A team that's kind of been overlooked in our tournament for some reason. They were very close to getting a 1 seed and failed at the end when we did our 1 seed selection show. The 1 seeds ended up being the 85 Bears, the 78 Steelers, the 92 Cowboys, and I'm missing one. The 89 49ers. This 84 49ers actually went 15-1 and actually won the Super Bowl. One of only two teams ever to go 15-1 or to have one loss and to win a Super Bowl. The other one being the 85 Bears, who were the overall 1 seed. They are taking on yet another Steeler team that's popped up in this tournament. Them and the Patriots probably had more entries than any other two teams. This is the 1974 Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to say this is the first Super Bowl of the 4 in the 70s for the Steelers. And I think this is the team that you were talking about, Kev, that had Stallworth and Swan on the bench. They weren't even starting at wide receiver during this yet. I think they were either rookies or second-year guys or something. Bradshaw was kind of all over. When you look at the stats from the 70s, it's weird because their stats look crazy. Like Bradshaw will have like 22 touchdowns, but 20 interceptions and Super Bowl MVP. And you're like, what in the world? Like, so it's kind of hard to figure out how to compare them. But luckily, that's not my job. That's your job. So I'm going to let you guys go first. That's who went first last time? I think it was Will. So I'm going to let Kev go first on this one. 84 49ers or the 74 Pittsburgh Steelers. The 49ers are the 2 seed. They're the higher seed. So this game is being played in 1984, which would affect the Steelers defense because they're not allowed to molest wide receivers running down the field unabated pretty much at will. That rule actually was created because of the Steelers team. So who would you pick between the 84 49ers or the 74 Steelers starting off with Kev?
Yeah, well, for me, here's the irony about this matchup. Guess who was the 84 49ers only lost to that year? The Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know,
actually.
Wow.
It was Sunday, October 14th, 1984, and it was in San Francisco. The Pittsburgh Steelers won 20-17.
Wow.
So that was their only loss the whole season. So it's kind of like, oh man, that's crazy. And then when you look at the time frame, that's just I just find irony in that. But
so it would have been the same coach, right, for the Steelers for back in 74 and 84. He was still the coach in 84, right?
Because
Chuck Noll, he's still the coach.
Chuck Noll, and then Cowher and now Tomlin. They only had 3 coaches their whole franchise.
Right, that's the dream. Yeah, that's kind of what you want to subscribe to. Like if you're a football fan, it's an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is because believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this was the team before Jerry Rice got on it. Jerry Rice is not on this 84 team.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it so you think a 49er team could go 15-1 without Jerry Rice? It kind of makes you just be like, well, damn. But I mean, the reason why, your offense is number 2 point scored and your defense is number 1 point scored. That can that can make it real convenient for you. As far as the ability to just dominate the games. Because when you look at the box score that year, I mean, it just really wasn't fair what these 49ers were doing to teams. I mean, it's almost like they almost had the game won mentally before they stepped out on the field. I mean, you got Montana, you got Craig, you got Dwight Clark, Freddie Solomon, Earl Cooper, who was a tight end that a lot of people don't remember from this era, but was, he was kind of like that era's Novacek. He wasn't a broad name, but he would be that silent killer for you.
That's a great character.
He was that type of guy. And then they had studs, on the offensive line as well. I don't know if y'all remember this name, Randy Cross. He was. I mean, it's just a well balanced team when you just look up and down. And then on defense, I mean, my God, here's the irony of this 84 team. They got Ronnie Lott, which we know as a safety. They got him as the left cornerback on this 84 team.
He had to be, God, was it like rookie year? He had to be like first year, second year in 84 because Ronnie Lott played until like.
Ronnie Lott was the 8th pick in the 81 draft, so this was his 3rd year.
So he was on the 81 49ers team then, right? Yeah. So he would have been on the 81 team that won. Man, God, Ronnie Lott got some gold. Ronnie Lott got some rings.
Yeah, because when we think Ronnie Lott, we think hard hitting. Say, rarely have we thought about Ronnie Lott, covering wide receivers. We see him defecating wide receivers, when they come across the middle. But, to see him locked up playing, cover one on a wide receiver, we wouldn't think that. But, they got him on this 84 team as a cornerback. And they still went 15-1. So, I mean, God, man.
That's the thing with this 49ers team. Because I think the further away we get from 84, I think people, for me, it was like, well, who's on this team? Like, how did they 15-1? And you start kind of looking through it, and you're like, okay, they got this and that. You see, like, it's almost like you want to compare them to the 89 49ers, because to me, the 88, 89 49ers are like the epitome of what either you love or hate about the 49ers. And the 89 49ers, it's like just a cast of just Hall of Famers, like just all these names that are on there. And then you look back at 84, and most 49er fans consider the 84 49ers the best 49er team, like in franchise history. And it's like, it feels like it's half the team of 89 that did all this with a bunch of older guys that people don't really talk about, like you touched on, Kev. But yeah, if you ask a 49er fan, they'll say 84 49ers like that, like right off the top of their head. And then 89, and then 81, and then 88, like, I'm going through all that. So, is that, I'm assuming that's a vote for the 84 49ers. Am I right, or am I wrong?
Yeah, that's a vote for the 84 49ers. Because like I said, with that type of defense talent, and you got Stallworth and Swan on the bench, you're not winning that game. I'm sorry. You're just not. That's me. So 84 49ers. And here's another irony about it. The Pittsburgh, the 49ers actually went to a Steelers 3-4 defense. During this era, during the early 80s. So they saw the success the Steelers had. But ironically, a lot of people don't know the Steelers' Steel Curtain largely evolved from a base 4-3 defense during the Steel Curtain days.
Wow.
So,
now the 49er defense did have a lot of the names that we know from the Steel Curtain. They were already there. Like a lot of them came in in a couple of draft classes, but they had the defense. And like you said, the offense was kind of Bradshaw's kind of starting. Swan and Stallworth aren't starting, and they still made it through and got to the Super Bowl and won it. But one vote for the 84 49ers from Kev. I got Will Avery and Will Harris and Kevin Avery from the Four Man Rush podcast. Catch them at it's fourmanrush.com, correct?
Yeah,
thefourmanrush.com.
Four-Man Rush.
Yeah.
Go to thefourmanrush.com to see all the stuff they put out Carolina Panther-wise in season and out of season. Will, who you got between the 84 49ers and the 1974 Pittsburgh Steelers for the right to move on to the Elite Eight?
Yeah, this was pretty much one of Bill Walsh's best jobs to me, this 1984 49ers team. Just the way they spread you out. And back then, like I talked about earlier with the linebackers, they were more built to stop the run. They weren't the Luke Kuechly's and Thomas Davises that we see now that can cover wide receivers or cover these running backs in space. So Bill Walsh comes into the league. He's got Wendell Tyler. He's got Roger Craig. He's spreading these teams out, and he's just attacking their linebackers with these athletic running backs. And it was so difficult to stop this offense. And this is even before they added, like Kev said, before they added, Jerry Rice and John Taylor and all those other additional weapons. You just watch it in the Super Bowl. It was in the Super Bowl that year. The 49ers played one of the most explosive offenses we've ever seen with Miami Dolphins and Dan Marino, who was the MVP of the league that year, throwing for 5,000 yards. And they pretty much bottled up that offense, and the wrong offense you would expect showed up in that Super Bowl. The Dolphins were just unable to contain, Bill Walsh and what he was able to do with that unit. And then on top of that, you got Joe Montana, in his prime at that point. But pretty much a dual threat running back. He could run, quarterback rather. He could run when he needed to. Very accurate passer, can scramble out of the pocket, do all those things. I really do think this is one of probably the best 49ers squad out of the bunch. The Steelers defense, they are formidable, but considering the game will be played in San Francisco in that era, and it's just so difficult for anyone to really match up with the weapons that the 49ers had on that offense, and then just Bill Walsh's innovative offensive mind. It just seems like a win here for the 49ers to me as well.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I just think this 49, because like I said, this 49ers team almost was a one seed, like they literally, them and the 91 Redskins were like the two next in line to get a one seed that we had. So I got to take that in consideration. Also, like you said, Will, it's been played in 1984. The defensive rules are different. A lot of people don't realize the 74 Steelers are responsible for the NFL changing the pass defense rules in the mid 70s, because the Steelers and the Raiders in particular were just clotheslining people coming down the field like every play. And like what ended up happening was that it actually, when they passed it after the 75 season, when the Steelers repeated the first time, it actually helped the Steelers, because at that point Stallworth and Swan had become starting wide receivers. And Bradshaw had kind of come into his own as the starter, and it opened up the offense for the Steelers because you couldn't molest their wide receivers going down the field. So in effect, it kind of extended the Steeler dynasty in the 70s by that rule. Having said that, that rule would probably help this 49ers team because of Joe Montana being back there. One of the things Kev likes to do is the QB comparison. So I got to look at it. Terry Bradshaw in 1974 or Joe Montana in 1984. At that point, at that point, Montana's already got a ring. He's pretty much considered the best of the game. Bradshaw is, I need to look at his stats from this year, but I think this is the year you were talking about, Kev, where he threw like 20 interceptions or something, or he was sharing the starting position with another guy.
Jameis Winston had the 30 for 30. He had the 20 for 20. So yeah,
yeah. I guess this 49er defense is not going to cut it. Like Bradshaw can't be loosey goosey with the ball during against the 84 49ers. I just don't see that working out. Matter of fact, I think these 84 49ers can put up 25, 27 points on these Steelers. I think it'd just be a well coached game. Walsh against Chuck Noll, like it would be a good matchup, but I got to go with the higher seed of the 84 49ers. So we're down 3 games down, 1 to go. We're picking the second half of the Elite 8 here of the greatest NFL team ever tournament. A couple of surprises. They're on the other side of the bracket. Right now, everything's kind of going chalk over here on this end here. And actually, you guys have agreed on every pick so far. I haven't had to make a pick yet. So thank you. Fantastic. So the final matchup of the day. Now, this one I don't know if you're going to go the same way on this one, because this is the one that stood out to me the whole time I've been looking at today's show. The 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers, they had the number 1 overall seed in this region, 14-2. Many considered probably the best Steelers team out of the 70s Steelers dynasty. The second repeat of the 70s is the first Super Bowl win out of that. Taking on this pesky 2007 New England Patriots team that went 16-0 in the regular season. And the only reason why we're even doing this tournament is because they lost the Super Bowl to the New York Giants. Tom Brady at the peak of his powers, 50 touchdown passes. Randy Moss had like 24, 23 touchdown receptions. Still a record, I believe, to this day. This offense was just a monster, but they have not seen a defense like the 78 Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers are the higher seed. So we're playing this game in 1978. So Randy Moss and Wes Welker and those boys aren't going to be able to get off the line like they would have been in 2007. Having said that, the Steelers have not defended a wide receiver built like Randy Moss. So this is an interesting matchup to me. I don't know how this is going to go. Y'all, I know how y'all feel about the Patriots. I know how I feel about them, but somehow, some way, they keep moving on in this tournament, and I'm worried they're going to destroy the whole thing. You have a chance to save humanity here, gentlemen, but I'm gonna let you guys go first. Will, who would you pick between the 78 Steelers and the 2007 New England Patriots?
Well, I think when you look at the teams that gave the Patriots the most problems that year, it was the Giants in both matchups, the Week 17 finale, and then ultimately in the Super Bowl when they took them down. So what were the Giants doing? I mean, their defense, held Brady to low yards per completion, just bend but don't break, make them dink and dunk and take what the defense gives them. And then when it's on third down, that's when you win and get off the field. I think the 78 Steelers defense is more than capable of doing that. I mean, you have Randy Moss would be a very difficult matchup, but I mean, they had Mel Blount themselves, who was a very good cornerback, Hall of Fame guy himself. So that would be a matchup to watch as well. I think the Giants did a good job controlling the ball, running the football, keeping Tom Brady on the sideline. I think the Steelers are capable of that as well. Just pound the ball with Franco Harris Terry Bradshaw, at this point in his career, he's much more of a veteran now. He's got 2 Hall of Fame wide receivers in his own right with John Stallworth and Lynn Swann. And so when you just look at it that way, I just don't think that – I think that the 78 Steeler team can do everything that the Giants team did to take down the undefeated Patriots squad. And then on top of that, you're going to add to the fact that we're playing in 1978 instead of 2007, outdoors, in front of the home crowd, the Steeler fans with their terrible towels. I mean, I just think this is where the 07 Patriots finally go down. I think the Steelers have all the right pieces to be able to take down a team like this with their all-star cast on offense between Harris, Stallworth, and Swann, and then the steel curtain on defense. I think they have the ability to contain those explosive plays from Brady to Moss and Dante Stallworth and Welker. They had their own good secondary themselves, linebackers with Lambert and those guys, and then Mean Joe Green getting after Brady all day. I just think it's a good matchup for them to finally take down the Patriots.
So we got to vote for the 1 seed, the 78 Pittsburgh Steelers. Kev, who you got here? Steelers Regional Semifinal, 1978. Pittsburgh Steelers 14-2 on their season, taking on the 2007 New England Patriots 16-0 on their regular season.
Well, the fan of me always wants to see the Patriots go down, but I know we got to be do our jobs here with some due diligence and be fair and all that good stuff. But
it's tough, man.
It's tough, but I'm looking at the rules, and I'm thinking about it, and I mean, Will gave every single reason why I totally that I could see the game working out. Using the same blueprint that the Giants use. I mean, they definitely got the receipts to do it, but even with the rules of it, and this is not a knock. I keep looking at Terry Bradshaw's passing ability. And one thing about a Belichick defense, he's going to take away the number one thing that you like to do and force you to other hand. So I'm going to roll with the 07 Patriots on this one, man. Reason being, I know, Des, I got to get you some work in today, man. You can't have an off day on a Monday. On a Wednesday.
I know, man.
I mean, for me, I think coaching, and this is no knock against the legend Chuck Noll, but I just think Belichick having time to prepare for Starbucks. I just think that Belichick being he can go up there with Noll as being the GOAT himself. So I just see that Belichick just coming up with a scheme to just slow down enough of this Steelers passing attack, and looking at Terry Bradshaw, and like he's pretty much nickeling and diming this thing, and I just see Belichick coming up with a defensive scheme that's going to frustrate, and they're not going to really get a lot of offensive production out of it. And I just see that Mel Blount having a good day with Randy Moss, but he's just going to just slip up a couple of times, and Moss going to get him. You remember that game against Moss where he had 3 catches, 170 yards, 3 touchdowns? Hey man,
clearly.
Hey, I mean, we talking about
rookie year too. That was 98. That was 98 Vikings. Yeah, we're talking about 23. Still an NFL record to this day. 23 touchdown Randy Moss. I'm saying nearly 10 years after it. I just see the and it really pains me to say this, but I just got to go with the Patriots. I just see Belichick just frustrating Bradshaw to where them 20 interceptions, he's just going to cough up a couple more, and the Patriots are going to be just good enough to just do it. Because one thing about a Patriots team with Belichick, they're not going to beat you. They're going to make you beat yourselves. And I just think Bradshaw, even though he's got Stallworth and Swann, I just think that he's just going to just goof up at the wrong time. And I see the Steelers losing by 1 touchdown on this one. So I'm going with the 07 Patriots in this matchup. Oh man. Okay, so we got a tie. So I got to come in here, and I knew this was going to be the one. I knew this was going to be the one. Always a Patriot.
And it pains me, man. You don't know how much it pains me to say that, man.
So I'm looking at the roster for the 78 Steelers, and I'm like, half this roster is in the Hall of Fame. Like, just looking at on offense, Terry Bradshaw, and I fully agree with Kev's assessment of Terry Bradshaw at quarterback. I mean, this in 78, he only completed 207 passes for 2,915 yards, 28 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, and he rushed for 93 yards on the season. Rocky Bleier had 633 yards on the ground for the year. Franco Harris had just over 1,000 yards rushing. Together, they had 13 touchdowns on the ground. And then even with Stallworth and Swan starting, they combined for like 102 catches for about 1,600 yards, 1,700 yards between the two of them, 20 touchdowns. So it sounds like on the surface a very conservative offense that let the defense do what it was going to do. When I go down to the defense, though, because to me that's the game. It's like you're playing in 1978. So can the Steeler defense contain the Patriots offense? Because I'm pretty sure the Steeler offense would be able to score on the Patriots defense from that year with Teddy Bruschi and I think Junior Seau was on that roster and Vince Wilfork and all those guys. The Steelers just pound them, running the ball and play action, taking their shots down the field. On the other side, though, the Steelers, they've got 7 guys that had at least 1 interception in the starting defensive starters. And you just look through the names, it's just Hall of Famer. L.C. Greenwood, Joe Green, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Mel Blount, Donnie Shell, Mike Wagner. I mean, you're going to tell Randy Moss through a defensive secondary that has a guy that they had to rule to prevent wide receivers from getting injured, like league wide. Like Mel Blount is wandering around back here, and you got Randy Moss just running unabated up the field. Like that's going to be a problem. And then Donnie Shell and Mike Wagner are at safety. Like the whole back end is just like you got to be brave to go down the field like this. And would Brady and Moss try to try him? Yeah, of course they would. Would Moss make it out of this game healthy? I don't know, because Moss wasn't exactly like a big wide receiver. He was a tall wide receiver, but lanky and fast was more his thing. He's more like a basketball player playing football. I think the Steelers would rough him up, man. I think that would be their plan. Like, look, let's take Randy Moss out of here, and we're going to just make sure Wes Welker doesn't get nothing other than, stuff up the middle. He's going to have to come in the middle of the field to get it if he wants it. Nothing on the outside. And just make Brady try to beat him. And if you disrupt Brady's timing, it's been like this for 20 years. If you can get Brady out of his little forced-up box behind the line and upset his timing, he's kind of like Peyton Manning that way, and Drew Brees. Then you can disrupt the whole offense. If you can get him just off of his 1, 2, 3, boom, get it out of there. I think the Steeler defense could do that. But then again, I say all that, and then I'm thinking the last couple of seconds of that Super Bowl in 2007, where it felt like the Giants were just beating down the Patriots all game, basically doing what I just said. And it only took them, like a minute and some change at the end for the Patriots to go down the field like 80 yards and score a touchdown, like Brady to Moss, and temporarily take the lead in that game. I think that could potentially.
It did take the luckiest pass ever for that to happen, though. You got to keep that in mind. And Skip Bayless would say the luckiest pass ever.
and that's because any other time, if that was a regular season game, Eli Manning gets whistled down. You know what I mean? Like they would have said he was in the grass and they would have stopped the play. But being in the Super Bowl, primetime, fourth quarter, they let it keep going. And it almost looks like the Patriots players thought the play stopped, and they stopped kind of pursuing him for a second. He gets it out. We all know the rest. Again, if the Patriots hadn't lost that game, we wouldn't even be doing this tournament. It'd be the Patriots are the greatest team of all time. There'd be no dispute. 19-0, all kinds of offensive records, the greatest coach of all time, the greatest QB of all time, the greatest wide receiver of all. I mean, like we would just be like, well, there's no reason to do this tournament, but they lost. So I feel like every time y'all put me in this situation, I have to pick the Patriots. It's always a Patriots game that I'm getting put in the situation. Y'all forcing me to pick the Patriots, but I can't do it this time. I think I got to go with the Steelers, primarily off of their defense. Like, I just feel like their defense would slow down this Patriots team, because the teams that did affect the Patriots that you did mention the Giants, but the Ravens affected the Patriots that year also. Yeah. Remember, they had a primetime Sunday night game, and the Ravens almost beat them. And I want to say Belichick did something at the end. They went for like a third down or something in their own territory and got it, or something crazy happened. Something happened. The Ravens were mad. They didn't get a chance to get the ball back. Patriots held on to win the game. But that's the same type of thing. Like that Ravens team would have still had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all those boys on it, similar to the 78 Steelers defense. So you kind of can see other teams this Patriots team had trouble with. I think the Steeler team, with 2 Super Bowl rings already, they already got the experience. I think that they would have enough experience and know how to figure out how to contain this Patriots team. I'm kicking the Patriots out, basically is what I'm saying, along with the Patriots. So I'm going with those. Go ahead, Kevin. But right now I'm leaning towards the 78 Steelers.
And this is something about Bradshaw. Of them 20 interceptions, guess how many were pick sixes that year?
Oh gosh, how many?
7. You gonna let Belichick?
What?
You gonna let Belichick? Okay, you think Belichick won't scheme to try to get 1, maybe 2? Hey man,
how many 20 interception seasons has Eli had though? When it counted though, what happened?
Hey, I mean,
I think like if you look at the Cowboys team that 78 Steeler team beat in the Super Bowl, they had a lot of Hall of Famers in their own right. And that's probably also all-time great team. I mean,
and the Steelers team, because I kind of look at the 78 Steelers as like it's the 78 Steelers, but it's the epitome of the 4 Super Bowl champions they had. Like this is when they were running on all cylinders. Yeah, Terry didn't have a great year in terms of interceptions and stuff, but it is 1978, so it wasn't like he was getting hammered for the fact that 20 interceptions. He was just real loose with the ball. That would be a concern going up against this defense that he'd be loose. But I would think Chuck Noll would come up with a plan of let's keep the ball away from the Patriots offense. Let's keep it on the ground, run clock, move the chains. And then when they do get the ball, let's pin them back deep in their territory and let our defense just go eat. You know what I mean? Like just make Tom Brady work for it. And yeah, the Patriots would have got a couple of, crazy Randy Moss gets behind everybody 80 yards and scores a touchdown. I mean, I know they're going to get one of those at least, but could they get 3 of them? Could they get 4 of them on the Steelers? Because that's what I feel like they'd have to do. Like I don't think they could put sustained together more than once or twice against the Steeler defense. I got to go with the Steelers. I mean, when you got a defense that's got a nickname that stood up for 40 plus years and people are still comparing your defense like to it, that means that you should probably be able to defend some of the greater offenses of all time. And by all accounts, the Patriots offense is one of the best offenses of all time. I think the Steelers could hang on and defeat them. So our Elite Eight is set. I have to apologize because I don't have the other half with me. But go ahead.
Hey, Des, real quick. You know what would have been a fun trench matchup in that game? Mike Webster versus the center, the Hall of Fame center, Mike Webster versus Vince Wolford.
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh my God! Yeah, that would have been.
Mike Webster wouldn't have. He never faced somebody with the size and speed and quickness of a Vince Wolford. That I would have paid good money to see that one.
That would have been for sure. I'm sitting there trying to figure out. I'm writing out what the Elite Eight is, and I apologize for not being prepared here. I'm missing a region. I'm trying to figure out who it is, and I'm forget. Oh, it's the Bears. So we've got an Elite Eight set. The Bears region is still just bothering me because, like I said, Aaron Gabriel and Brandon Blakeney just kind of destroyed everything. And then I had B-Dot from 102 and Chris Lee from WRL and Raleigh on last week, and they took out the 91 Redskins. And I'm just like, dang. So wow. Like, the team expecting to get far, and they didn't. I remember what it was. It was I think it's the 98 Vikings and the 98 Broncos, if I'm not mistaken, made it over there. So I've got part of the Elite Eight sitting here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 of the 8. So everybody apologies. I'll post the Elite Eight bracket on sportsfunmonthly.com so people can catch up before we get into the Elite Eight round. But as it stands right now, the 99 Rams, the 92 Cowboys, the 84 49ers, the 78 Steelers, and the 89 49ers and the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs have all made it to the Elite Eight. Okay. Yeah. The Chiefs thing is still bothers me. I told
Hey, Dez, you remember the first one?
Speed. They're all like faster.
Hey, Dez, you remember that first one? We, me and I can't think
Say
of his
what?
name. We had the Chiefs beating the 72 Dolphins in that game. You remember?
Yes. Yes, do. So I mean, like this,
Yeah, man.
this tomfoolery's been going on from the very beginning.
Back in '72, the Chiefs are borrowing plays from the old days.
So I think every time a team like that is beating one of these older teams, the excuse has been they're faster. Like, oh, the Chiefs are faster than whoever, and they wouldn't be able to contain Tyreek Hill, or how they going to guard Kelsey, or how they going to Sammy Watkins is running around. So like that's always been the thing that gets one of these teams past, is that they're just noticeably faster than that other team. I'm trying to remember who made it out of the Bears region, because I usually have them written down. I don't know who the hell it is.
Fast guys in the
ahead,
80s. And Willie Gault was fast back in the 80s. He was a track sprinter. You had a Cowboys wide receiver was a Cowboys wide receiver that was an Olympic track athlete. Oh man.
Bullet Bob Hayes.
Yeah.
He 88.
Nothing new.
I mean, so Speed's been around this whole time. I want to say that I think it's the 98 Denver Broncos against the 98 Minnesota Vikings in the Bears region. I think that was the final over there. Which is interesting, because that could have been the Super Bowl in 1998, but the Vikings got upset in an NFC Championship game. The Broncos actually won it, but everyone kind of considers that Vikings team is the one team still out here that's an at-large team that did not win the Super Bowl that might mess around and win the whole thing. Just looking at these matchups. So just to clarify for everybody, I do have my 8 here. And thanks to everybody who's been with us on this journey since April when COVID hit, and we were looking for something to do content-wise to kind of keep it fresh. And people seem to have liked what we were doing. The Elite 8 is set. It's the Cowboys Regional. It's the 2 seed 1999 St. Louis Rams taking on the 1 seed the 1992 Dallas Cowboys. That's a clutch matchup right there. The Steelers Regional Finals, the 1984 San Francisco 49ers, the 2 seed taking on the 1 seed 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. In the 49ers region, that's a tough one too. Like, all of these are crazy matchups. In the 49ers region, the 1 seed, the 1989 San Francisco 49ers, are taking on the 10 seed 2019 Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if we were prisoners of the moment or what, but somehow the Chiefs have made it all the way to the Elite 8 in this crazy matchup. It was the week Mahomes signed that $500 million deal. Was when we did that show, so everybody was kind of like, Chiefs. So Chiefs move on. And then in the Bears region, the 1998 Denver Broncos, who were the 4 seed, take on the 1998 Minnesota Vikings, who were an 8 seed, primarily because they did not win the Super Bowl that year. And no at-large teams got a seed higher than a 5, and that was the Patriots team that just got put out. So we've got our 8. This is going to be crazy. I don't even know how I'm going to do this yet in terms of like judges or whatnot. I know me, Brandon Blakeney, and Rod Funderburk will do the Final 4 in the championship game, but we got one more show before that, and it's going to be the Elite 8. So we'll figure out who we'll have for the guest judges for that. Guys, you guys want to plug your stuff? I know y'all got a whole lot of stuff going on for 4-Man Rush right now. Tell the folks where they can get to all the great content you put out for Panther fans.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, YouTube. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel. We got player breakdowns, scheme breakdowns, podcast episodes, all that type of stuff. We got a full website as well at www.the4manrush.com. We can check out more of our content, articles from our bloggers, and just be on the lookout. We're trying to get this clothing line going. So that's the next challenge we got coming up. So be on the lookout for that as well.
Yeah, I need a shirt for real. Like, when y'all get that together, let me know, and I'll order a shirt for sure. So for my folks over at the 4-Man Rush, Will Harris and Kevin Avery, I'm Desmond Johnson. Make sure you subscribe to Sports Carolina Monthly on YouTube. You can go to sportscarolinamonthly.com and catch all previous episodes. They're available at our YouTube channel in video format and audio format on all major podcast platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and more. Check all those episodes out to get caught up. We'll start the Elite 8 next week, and we're almost there. I'm scared to death who it's going to be looking at these teams. Who's going to be the last one standing, because for some reason I don't know why. I feel like that 2019 Chiefs team is here to spoil the whole thing. It's gonna make me very upset if the 2019 Chiefs end up being crowned the greatest NFL team of all time. That just feels like I just wasted too much life. So we'll see. We'll see. So signing off. This is the rundown. Greatest NFL team tournament, or greatest NFL team ever. See you guys next week. Peace.
Hey there, this is Rod Funderburk, and you've been watching an episode of The Rundown with Desmond Johnson. In order to watch more episodes of The Rundown with Desmond Johnson, please subscribe to Sports Carolina Monthly's YouTube channel.